Hi horse friends, in today's video we are going to share with you the diagnosis we ended up getting for our horses. We're also going to talk about what the past couple weeks has looked like for us as a result and give you guys some suggestions on how you can possibly handle this. So a couple weeks ago we had a horse that spiked a small fever, about 101.4. He actually lives separate than the other horses in this barn, which is kind of interesting, and hasn't gone anywhere in a long time. We had them vet out that day, took a PCR, temperature, 101.4 is really not that high, especially considering we're in 100-degree weather. Quarantined him. The PCR came back negative for that horse, and the PCR tests for strangles as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. About 1 week later, we had another horse come down with a fever and a runny nose as well. Now, these runny noses, mind you, were not mucousy at all. Okay, it was clear, just kind of, a lot of people might have thought it was allergies or something upper respiratory. And now that we had two horses with very similar symptoms, we went ahead and shut everything down. All the movement of our horses in the barn. We started implementing very strict biosecurity rules, which I will go over later. We did have that horse PCR tested as well. That was also negative. We then had another horse in the barn come down with very similar symptoms, as well as one on the other side of the hay barn. All those tests were PCR negative. We could not figure out what we had. We knew we had something that was making the horses very sick, but we didn't know what. So we kept seeing clear drippy noses and every once in a while a little bit of a cough. Now, if any one of you has ever dealt with strangles before, I have actually personally never dealt with it here. Even though we were getting these negative results, I was leaning towards the fact that it could be strangles. What is strangles? It is Streptococcus equi, so essentially strep throat for horses. It can be very, very serious, okay? Most of the time, most horses don't get seriously sick, but up to 10% of them can, and in bad strangles outbreaks, up to 40%. And those percentage that get sick, they get very sick, and horses do die. It is not something to mess around with. So fortunately, about 4 or 5 days later, one of the horses that got sick did develop some swelling underneath the lymph node, which is classic for strangles. It did pop. We were able to sample the pus from the strangles. We have sent that into the state laboratory. It came back first as a partial positive, so they kept culturing it, and then we got a full positive. So we were very, very grateful that we implemented these strategies. We have sent out the PCRs to multiple labs. All were negative before we actually got the pus. So what has happened since then is or even before then, we shut down the barn. We were not allowing lessons to come in, obviously no trailer ins, none of that. We still cannot figure out how it came in. We're actually thinking possibly a person because we did not have horses coming and going. I did end up with 2 very severe colic episodes as a result of it. There can be regular strangles, right, which goes to the lymph nodes, and there can also be bastard strangles, which goes internal and can make the horses very sick. So there are a lot of asymptomatic carriers with strangles as well. And so you don't actually know who on your property could be sick or not. The horses that ended up in the hospital, they didn't have any outward clinical signs. But when they went into the hospital, their blood work showed that they were fighting something, aka strangles. So my kind of theory with that too, one of them had a gas colic and one of them had an impaction colic. My theory with that is that when they aren't feeling well, they don't drink well and they don't eat as well on top of internal abscesses. So they are more prone to these gastric complications on top of the slow motility that we know that strangles causes. So general, though, if I were to go general symptoms with strangles, can be lymph node swelling. It can be clear runny nose. It can be temperature up to 106. It can also be nothing. Your horse can be a lifetime carrier of strangles in their guttural pouches. And when they move to a facility, if they get stressed, they can start shedding the bacteria. Now, a lot of people call it a virus. It is not a virus. It is a bacteria. The incubation period is 3 to 14 days. So your horse can be infected weeks ago, and then now all of a sudden start to be getting sick. This is not something you mess around with. And there are some barns that institute a quarantine period when a new horse comes into the barn. Fortunately for us, we hadn't had any new horses come into the barn. We do know that this was most likely brought in by a person. We don't really do trailer in, trailer outs. If we do, the people have like one other horse at their barn and they don't go anywhere else besides here. We are also currently hearing that there are multiple other barns in northern Nevada that are coming down with this at the same time. This is not something that we wish on anybody. We are wondering if this has something to do possibly with the fact that we essentially had no spring. It went hot and dry quickly. Now, in water, this is kind of interesting. The bacteria lives up to 3 weeks. The sunshine currently, though, is our friend, because in hot and dry environments, the bacteria only generally lives 3 days. So, to quarantine the horses, we are having the owners help us clean stalls. We are spraying everything with Rescue. If you guys don't know what Rescue is, it's an amazing cleaner that the veterinary hospitals use. It kills just about everything. It is not cheap. You can also use bleach too, but Rescue is a lot better on clothing as well because it doesn't bleach. So if you care about your clothes, I mean, you can just douse yourself in it. We personally, though, are showering in between working with horses, symptomatic or not symptomatic, if we can help it. We aren't going in to feed the horses, we are just throwing the food over the top, and so that we don't go from horse to horse to horse. We are also having owners clean the stalls. God bless them. We really appreciate the help. When they go in to clean the stalls, we have 5-gallon sprayers. They are spraying everything with the Rescue. One horse at a time that is not in what we call our sick area is allowed in the outdoor arena. We are currently now a few days without symptoms, and I am so grateful for that. But we are cautiously optimistic, and that we might be getting through the worst of it, but we are certainly not going to just fully open everything up and possibly risk other horses that haven't been exposed previously. So the big thing I want you to get out of this for us with Strangles is it's very dangerous, and you might not actually get a positive result from a PCR. We had multiple labs, multiple horses with a negative PCR, and we obviously have it, and we have all of the symptoms. Every horse, though, presents differently. So I don't want you to think, oh, they don't have swelling underneath the guttural pouch. Oh, they don't have a fever. That doesn't mean that your horse doesn't have strangles. So please pray for us that we continue to get through this. I never imagined in a million years that I would have 2 horses in the ICU what I felt like fighting for their life, as well as multiple other sick horses at my barn. This has been absolutely exhausting for everybody, and it's like we're fighting a war against something we can't see, and we don't know who is going to get sick next. Trying to take a deep breath right now while we don't seem to have any new cases and everybody else seems to be resolving. But trust me, 2 horses in the ICU is emotionally worrying as well as financially, because they can't just go in the regular vet hospital when they're there. They have to be isolated because of the severity of the bacteria. So if you have any questions, please feel free to comment below, and please keep thinking about us. Thank you so much.